Imagine finding out that most of what you believe about your life, your limits, your habits, even your truths, was never really yours. That everything you thought was you is just a layer of human conditioning stacked on top of a much greater awareness you forgot you had. Sounds wild, right? But maybe that's exactly why life feels like a loop you can't escape. The real trap isn't your circumstances. It's the false belief that you're just human, bound by rules you never chose. You've been living with a perception shaped by fear, survival, and outdated stories. But here's the kicker. The second you realize you're more than this human program, you start to rewrite the whole script. In this video, I'm going to show you how your subconscious filters have been steering your reality without permission, how your thoughts became habits, and how to break free to create from a place way beyond your mind. No fluff, no mystical word games, just the raw truth that'll flip your whole perception of life. Once you see it, you won't ever go back. 1. The human program you mistook for yourself. Most people grow up thinking they're fully in charge of who they are, but the truth is a bit messier. From the moment they're born, their minds start soaking up beliefs, fears, habits, everything from parents, school, and society. Little by little, they build a version of themselves that's not really them. It's a collection of rules and survival mechanisms that became their second skin without them even noticing. This whole process of conditioning makes them believe they're just human, when deep down, they're something much bigger. Think about it. Nobody comes into this world worried about money, failure, or fitting in. Those worries get installed later, like cheap software updates nobody asked for. And once they're in, they start running on autopilot. Awareness of this is rare because the program feels normal. It feels like just being realistic. But man, what if realistic was just another setting you never chose? A little scary, right? That's why waking up isn't about changing who you are. It's about peeling back the layers that never belonged to you in the first place. If you want to test this out, here's something practical. Spend one day questioning every assumption you make. Before you react, ask yourself, is this coming from my true self or the human program I inherited? You'll be shocked at how often it's the second one. Whether it's fear of speaking up at work or doubting yourself for no good reason, awareness breaks the spell. And once you catch even one of these patterns in the act, you're not just living, you're starting to control your creation. The biggest lie the human system sells is that you're small, fragile, and stuck. But here's the thing. You're not human in the way you think. You're just living under a perception shaped by old programs that got into your system early on. And the moment you start noticing the cracks in that identity, you open the door to something way more powerful. And that's exactly what happens when you realize how your mind filters reality without even asking you. 2. How your mind filters reality without asking you. Imagine wearing sunglasses that tint everything red and forgetting you ever put them on. That's exactly how the mind works. Through years of conditioning, it installs filters that quietly decide what you notice, what you ignore, and how you feel about it all. Most people don't realize their awareness has been hijacked by these filters. They think they're seeing reality clearly, but what they're really seeing is a perception edited by fears, habits, and old stories buried deep in the mind. The mind's first job isn't to show the truth. It's to keep you safe, according to what it believes is safe. So if you grew up hearing that money's evil or love always ends badly, guess what? Your mind now scans the world to find proof of that. It's like having a GPS programmed to drive you in circles. Without even knowing it, you're navigating life based on outdated coordinates. That's why so many men feel stuck, frustrated, or like they're living a life that isn't really theirs. Want a way to hack into this system? Next time you feel irritated, stuck, or lost, pause and ask yourself, what filter am I looking through right now? You'll be amazed at what pops up. Maybe it's a fear of rejection from childhood. Maybe it's a belief that good things can't happen easily. Just noticing the filter already weakens its grip. And once you see that awareness and perception are flexible, you start opening doors that used to look like walls. The human system loves to pretend its version of reality is the only one. It's comfortable, it's predictable. But here's the real kicker. Most of your decisions are already made before you even think about them. You're not steering the ship as much as you believe. And when you finally start questioning that, a new question naturally shows up. Are you really choosing your life, or are you just running a bunch of pre-installed reactions? 3. Free will or pre-installed reaction. Most men walk around thinking they're making decisions all day long, but here's the uncomfortable truth. The human mind fires reactions before you even realize it. Studies show your brain often decides what you'll do a full second before you consciously think you made a choice. Crazy, right? That's not free will, that's pre-installed programming. Years of conditioning turned knee-jerk reactions into a full-blown lifestyle, and most people are stuck playing the same script on loop without even seeing it. Ever wonder why you blurt out sarcasm when someone criticizes you? Or why you grab your phone and scroll when you're bored, instead of doing something meaningful? Those aren't choices, they're rehearsed moves. Awareness is the only way out of this maze. If you can spot the moment your system kicks into autopilot, you can interrupt it. It's like hacking into your own code, and it's a lot simpler than it sounds once you start paying attention with real curiosity. Here's something you can try today. Every time you catch yourself reacting without thinking, whether it's reaching for junk food, zoning out, or snapping at someone, pause. Ask yourself, is this me or is this a habit? That tiny question throws a wrench into the machine. Over time, those little moments of interruption build into a muscle that can change your whole creation of reality. And trust me, it's addictive once you realize how much power you were giving away without knowing it. Conditioning loves to whisper that this is just how you are, but don't fall for it. That's the human program talking, not the real you. And the funny part is, once you crack the illusion, you start remembering something powerful you left behind a long time ago. A force so natural, so instinctive, you probably haven't even realized it's been quietly calling you back since childhood. 4. The imagination trap. How you got talked out of your power. When you were a kid, imagination wasn't something you had to try to access. It was just there. A stick became a sword, a living room became a battlefield, a box became a spaceship. That was raw creation, untouched by the conditioning that would eventually tell you what's realistic. Little by little, school, family, and society hammered into your mind that imagination was just for kids. Before you knew it, you stopped seeing possibilities and started seeing problems. The system doesn't just condition behavior, it conditions perception. It trains you to believe that dreaming is dangerous, risky, even foolish. That's why so many men grow up thinking creativity is for artists or lucky people. But the truth is, imagination is a fundamental part of awareness. It's how you shape new realities. When you cut it off, you're not just being practical, you're cutting off the engine that could take you beyond the human program you've been trapped in. Want to reactivate that forgotten power? Here's something simple but powerful. Spend 10 minutes a day doing something completely useless. Sketch a silly idea. Daydream about a life that makes no sense to your current situation. Write a one-page story where you're the hero. These small acts confuse the system just enough to wake up the deeper parts of you. And the best part? They're fun. They remind you that creation isn't just about goals. It's about freedom. Conditioning hates when you start playing with reality because it knows that's how the cracks start forming. And once those cracks appear, you start to wonder, if imagination was stolen from you, what else was taken along the way without you even noticing? That question leads you straight into the heart of why the human identity fights so hard to protect itself. 5. Why the human identity fears change. The human mind clings to familiarity like a life raft, even when it's floating in a sea of misery. It's wild, but it makes sense when you realize the mind's job isn't to make you happy, it's to keep you safe. And safe, according to the conditioning you picked up, often means staying exactly where you are. That's why change feels so terrifying. It's not that you're weak or lazy, it's that your perception has been trained to see change as a threat instead of an opportunity. Ever notice how you get excited about a new idea and then almost immediately start talking yourself out of it? That's the human program at work. It's running old warnings like, "What if you fail?" or "Who do you think you are?" without you even asking. Awareness of this inner defense system is half the battle. Once you spot it, you can start calling its bluff. It's not about bulldozing your fears, it's about seeing them for what they really are, conditioning from a version of you that doesn't fit anymore. Here's something practical to flip the script. Every time you feel that tight, panicky feeling when thinking about making a move, starting a business, ending a toxic relationship, trying something new, pause. Instead of asking, "What could go wrong?" ask, "What old story am I still protecting?" This question shifts your perception from fear to curiosity. It pulls you out of reaction mode and drops you back into creation mode, where you actually belong. The human identity was built to survive, not to thrive, and the second you realize that, you understand why it fights so hard to stay in control. But underneath all that resistance, there's a deeper awareness, a non-human awareness, that's been waiting for you to remember who you are beyond the noise. And once you start tapping into that, the whole game changes. 6. Awakening the non-human awareness within you. Beneath the surface of the human drama, there's something ancient, powerful, and untouched by the noise of the world. It's not the mind. It's not the body. It's a level of awareness that existed long before you were taught to answer to a name, a job title, or a story. This non-human awareness isn't mystical nonsense. It's the real you. The one that watches the mind think, the body move, the emotions rise and fall, without getting caught in any of it. You've felt it before, even if you didn't realize it. Those moments when you stare at the sky and feel like you're connected to something way bigger than your problems. That's it. The problem is, conditioning trained you to brush those moments off as just feelings. But they're not. They're glimpses into the perception that was yours before the world told you who you were supposed to be. And every time you ignore them, you stay trapped in a system that was never designed for your highest creation. Want to strengthen this non-human awareness? Start simple. Spend 5 minutes a day doing absolutely nothing. No scrolling, no thinking about tasks, just sitting and noticing what's there without trying to fix or label it. Meditation apps like Insight Timer can help if you want a little guidance. The point is to stop feeding the mental noise long enough for the deeper awareness to peek through. And when it does, you'll realize you were never the mind. You were always the observer. Most people spend their entire lives trying to fix the human program without realizing they were never meant to be stuck in it in the first place. And once that light bulb goes off, you can't unsee it. You start looking at your perception differently, realizing that it's not just a lens you inherited, it's a tool you can master. And that's where you begin to build a reality that matches who you really are. 7. Your perception, the lens that builds your reality. Most people think reality is just what's happening around them, but that's not even close. Reality, as you experience it, is built through perception. And perception is filtered through all the layers of conditioning you've picked up along the way. Two people can stand side by side, face the same situation, and live two completely different realities. It's not because the world changes. It's because the lens they're looking through changes everything they see, feel, and believe. The mind doesn't show you reality. It shows you a version of reality that matches what it expects to find. That's why a man who believes he's unlucky sees obstacles everywhere, while another, who trusts in his own creation, sees opportunities hiding in plain sight. Awareness of this lens gives you the power to shift it, and when you shift it, the world starts responding differently. Not because the world changed, but because your perception did. Here's a simple exercise to start flipping that lens. Every night, write down 3 things that went right during the day, even if they're tiny. Maybe you caught a green light. Maybe you had a good laugh. Maybe you finished a task you'd been putting off. This tiny habit rewires your mind to notice creation instead of limitation. It teaches your perception to scan for openings instead of walls, and over time, it changes the emotional atmosphere you live in. When you realize your perception is active, not passive, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your experience. And from there, a wild thing happens. You begin to see how even your own thoughts are not sacred truths, but echoes of an old system trying to keep you small. And if thoughts are just echoes, what does that mean about the voice you've been listening to all these years? 8. Thoughts are echoes, not truths. Most men grow up believing that if a thought pops into their head, it must be real, important, and personal. But here's the raw truth. Most thoughts aren't new creations. They're just echoes of old conditioning bouncing around inside the mind. You're not inventing fresh ideas every morning. You're recycling yesterday's fears, doubts, and patterns without even realizing it. Awareness of this is like pulling the curtain back on the wizard running the show. Ever notice how easily one negative thought can spiral into a whole bad day? It's not because the thought was some divine warning. It's because your mind, trained by years of perception conditioning, grabbed onto that echo and treated it like gospel. Thoughts aren't commands, they're suggestions, and you have way more power than you think when it comes to choosing which ones you want to amplify and which ones you're ready to ignore like bad background music. Here's a practical challenge to break the spell. Grab a small notebook and carry it with you for a full day. Every time a limiting thought pops up, like "I'm bad with money" or "I'm too old to change," write it down. Then next to it, rewrite it as a possibility. "I'm learning how to master money," or "I'm just getting started." This tiny act turns passive conditioning into active creation. Over time, it rewires your brain to question the noise instead of worship it. Once you start catching these echoes, you can't unhear them. You realize that a lot of what you thought was you was just a loop you didn't even install. And that's when you start to feel the first real taste of freedom, the kind that shows up when you finally take back the power to create a reality that isn't limited by the human script you were handed. 9. Taking back the power to create beyond human limits. At some point, every man who wakes up realizes he's been living in a reality built mostly by fear, repetition, and other people's expectations. And when that hits, there are 2 choices: shrink back into the human story or step into creation like he was always meant to. Creation doesn't happen because you deserve it. It happens because you reclaim your awareness and start choosing your perception instead of letting it be chosen for you. You don't need to become someone else or earn a permission slip from the universe. You just need to stop obeying the filters installed by a system that was designed to keep you small. Start asking better questions. What am I pretending not to notice? What reality could I build if I didn't believe my limits were real? These aren't cute journaling prompts. They're the doorway to a life where conditioning doesn't dictate your future. One practical move: shake up your environment. Visit places you normally wouldn't. Talk to people you usually avoid. Dive into books that make your brain sweat a little. Try Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza if you want a serious push. When you expose yourself to unfamiliar experiences, you force the mind to break old patterns and create new perception maps. And that's how real creation starts. Messy, awkward, but unstoppable. The truth is, you were never designed to live a limited life. That's just the human costume you've been wearing because nobody told you it was optional. Now that you know, the game's different. The only thing left to decide is whether you'll keep playing by the old rules, or start building a world that finally fits the awareness that's been waiting inside you all along. If you want to elevate your vibrations and manifest with more ease, I have prepared something special for you. Click the link in the first pinned comment and join us in the journey of awakening your inner mage.